There lies a state in the Great White North, a state so cold in the winter months that there's nothing to do but drink inside, fish out of a hole, and watch sports. Their fans are loyal, hardened, and heartbroken. Minnesota is home to 4 major sports teams: the Vikings, the Wild, the Timberwolves, and the Twins. But for all their dedication, Minnesota has just 2 championships to show for it, and it's been over 30 cold years since their last one. This is Minnesota, the most cursed sports state in the Union. Let's examine the hex in its entirety, and that's coming up right after this. Picks. In the case of most curses, there is usually some burial ground a city was built over, or an ancient tribe that forbade the lands to be fruitful. In the case of Minnesota, there's no need for a backstory. For their sports teams, the curse isn't anything specific. But damn, it's real. A curse times 2. It had been 18 years, 11 months, and 28 days since the Minnesota Twins had won a playoff game. From 2004 to 2023, the Twins had appeared in 18 playoff games and lost them all. But before that infamous streak, let's back up. The Twins weren't always a punchline in MLB lore, far from it. In fact, in 1991, they were locked in perhaps the greatest fall classic anyone had ever seen. 4 years removed from their first championship, Minnesota was back at the precipice of glory. And following a stalemate with the Atlanta Braves after 6 games, they faced a Game 7 battle for the ages. After 9 scoreless innings, the Braves came tantalizingly close to scoring in the 8th, but Lonnie Smith failed to score from first base on a double. In the bottom of the 10th, Dan Gladden led off with a double and went over to third on a sacrifice bunt. And then Gene Larkin delivered the game-winning walk-off hit, securing the World Championship for the Twins. That was 1991, over 30 years ago. And for all the home field advantage that the Twins had, it's like they sold their soul for those 2 championships. The Twins would miss the playoffs for a decade. And then getting back, well, the curse seems uglier in the postseason. Following the 10 years of basement-dwelling baseball, the Twins found their way into the 2002 postseason, eliminating the Moneyball A's only to fall to the eventual World Series champion Angels a series later. There's no play that illustrates the Twins' postseason curse quite like Joe Mauer's fly ball in the 2009 ALDS. Minnesota trailed 1-0 in that series to the Yankees, their personal kryptonite, but they were knotted up 3-3 in the top of the 11th in Yankee Stadium. With no outs, Joe Mauer drove a ball to the left field line that not only touched Melky Cabrera's glove in fair territory, it actually landed fair. And not by a little, it didn't even touch the chalk, and umpire Phil Cuzzo called it a foul ball. I think you probably have some idea of what happens next. What should have been a double for Mauer became a single, and 2 straight base hits that could have plated Mauer left him at third base. A frame later, Mark Teixeira hit a walk-off home run. It's just a sliver of the Twins' postseason woes, specifically against the Yankees, who since 2003 bested them in 5 different series and added a wild-card defeat in 2017 for good measure, beating them 15 straight times in the process. They beat them so many times even Chris Brown winced. The Twins would also lose to the A's again and the Astros for a record 18 straight postseason losses. They finally won a series in 2023 and then laid an egg to the Astros once again. The echoes of the Metrodome silenced long ago. The curse of the Wild. Minnesota has a rich hockey culture, just not in the professional ranks. Arising from the ashes of the North Stars, who moved to Dallas in '93, the Minnesota Wild embarked on their NHL journey in 2000 alongside the Blue Jackets as part of the league's expansion. The early years were uneventful, to say the least. The Wild placed last in their division during each of their first 2 seasons. They have since become a great regular season team. The postseason, not so much. They've only reached the Western Conference Finals once in their history, way back in 2002/2003. And that's been the farthest they've made it. Over the last 4 years, they've been winners, but have failed to get past the first round. In fact, they haven't even won a playoff series since 2015. They've had good players and good coaches. However, for a state so rich in hockey, the Wild being so inept has to have them scratching their heads heads like looking at their own fucking logo. Seriously, what is this thing? The curse of ineptitude. The Minnesota Timberwolves don't own any hardware. In fact, they have next to nothing. Well, except, according to the calculations of one Reddit user, the T-Wolves became the losingest team in all of American sports, edging out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with a franchise winning percentage of .393. Jesu Cristo, y'all suck. The Timberwolves are one of the NBA's younger franchises, born in 1989 and missing the postseason for the first 7 years of their measly existence. Then things changed when they drafted a wiry forward by the name of Kevin Garnett. Anything became possible, and by anything, I mean a loss in the first round of the playoffs. From 1997 to 2003, that was their fate. 7 seasons in a row, the T-Wolves were dispatched in the opening round of the tournament. Kinda similar to how the Wild got sent out. In 2003, they blew a 2-1 advantage over the Lakers and fell in 6 games. But things were looking up a season later. The Timberwolves were winners of 58 games. Kevin Garnett was playing at an elite level, and 33-year-old Latrell Sprewell managed to play all 82 games without choking someone. Yes, T-Wolves legend Latrell Sprewell. That team took care of the Nuggets in 5, won a thrilling 7-game series against the Kings, but once again fell to the Lakers in a 6-game Western Conference Finals. And that's the farthest they've ever been. Damn, Kobe-era Lakers. Garnett finally got his ring in 2008. The only problem was that came in Boston. Then a drought came that would make most marriages wince. For 13 years, the T-Wolves weren't just missing the playoffs, they were abominable. Their fans endured a 17-win season, a 16-win season, and a 15-win season. Surely they landed a #1 pick in at least one of those calamitous years, right? Yeah, once. And in 2009, they had consecutive first-round draft picks in the 4th and 5th slot. They took Spaniard Ricky Rubio and point guard Johnny Flynn. The next player taken, Steph Curry. Whoops. In 2010, they used the 4th pick on Wesley Johnson, 1 slot ahead of DeMarcus Cousins. A year later, they missed out on Kyrie Irving and had to settle for Derek Williams. At least in 2015, they found their man in Kentucky center Karl Anthony Towns. Towns has given the T-Wolves a floor as a franchise, and that's included 3 trips to the playoffs and a 47-win season in 2018 that culminated in a gentleman's sweep at the hands of James Harden and the Houston Rockets. Then Minnesota took a huge swing in 2022 when they traded for Rudy Gobert, adding him to Towns, D'Lo, and the first pick in the 2020 NBA draft, Anthony Edwards. They won 42 games and were bounced 4-1 in the first round. The curse of ineptitude lives on. And now, for probably the most gut-wrenching Minnesota sports curse, the curse of the Viking. The Vikings are one of the most consistent, successful teams since their inception in 1961. They own the 7th best winning percentage in NFL history, and they have nothing to show for it. Long before the Buffalo Bills lost 4 straight Super Bowls to kick off the 90s, the Vikings were the original big game losers of the NFL. Despite fielding Hall of Fame talent like Fran Tarkenton and Alan Page, the Purple People Eaters were allergic to getting over the hump, falling in 4 Super Bowls in the span of 7 years. Minnesota was handled by the Chiefs before ceding 2 straight to the Dolphins and Steelers, then closing out their run with a blowout loss to John Madden's Raiders. As good as the Vikings were to get there 4 times, they never even came close to hoisting the trophy. Their closest margin was 10 points in Super Bowl IX, and in those 4 games, they were defeated by a combined 51 points. At least the Bills had a chance at the end of their first Super Bowl. The other 3, though, let's not talk about those. After a couple decades of mediocrity, the Vikings morphed into an offensive powerhouse in the late 90s, thanks to the pickup of Chris Carter and the steal of the 98 draft wide receiver Randy Moss. Randall Cunningham evolved into an elite pocket passer and turned the Vikes into a powerhouse unit, winning 16 of their first 17 games in 98. It looked like the curse would be broken. Then came the NFC Championship game. 39-year-old Gary Anderson hadn't missed a field goal in 39 kicks, and yet when he had a chance to seal a trip to Super Bowl 33, he naturally blew it like a White House intern. It was 11 years later that the Vikings were on the cusp of of getting back. Another 39-year-old Brett Favre had the ball at the 38-yard line with 19 seconds left in a tied game. Inexplicably, Favre threw across his body and into the arms of Tracy Porter, letting the game go to overtime, where Minnesota once again had their hearts broken by an opposing kicker. Fast forward 6 years, and the Vikings were on the verge of defeating the Legion of Boom in a low-scoring wild card game. From just 27 yards out, Blair Walsh sent the ball wide left, ending a promising Minnesota team's season, and that shit wasn't even close. Jesus, that might have been the worst clutch kick of all time. But whether their defeat has come at the hands of Nate Poole or a young and ascending team that was stopped in its track by Teddy Bridgewater's gruesome training camp injury, or somehow losing a playoff game to Daniel Jones, the Vikings have been snake-bitten since 1961. Yes, they have at least been to a Super Bowl, but that was so long ago. The ground now has been frozen over those memories, and who knows when this dark curse will end.
Brett Favre goes back to pass, he pumps. Now he fires over the middle, intercepted. I can't believe what I'm seeing right now.